Hey, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Insights Over Espresso. Today we're joined by PJ Jajapur, the founder of Prospexia Ventures, an early stage B2B SaaS startup building an AI operating system for venture capital. PJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Now, PJ, you worked as a VC analyst and a scout, which led you to see a massive inefficiency in the deal flow process. You mentioned that when we spoke before. What was the aha moment that made you realize this process could be automated? And how did that lead to you building Prospexia?
It's not that there was an aha moment. It took me a long time to realize that I was doing the same thing over and over again. I did it almost 300 times before I even realized, it's the same questions I'm asking. I was considering, just making a form for them to fill out, but I felt like then you just lose the human connection. So the human connection is a big part of it. I wanted to create a way where you could have both, where you could have the data side, but you also could have the human connection side. So that's what the system does. It allows both to exist in the same space where you get all the data, but you also get the human connection.
Okay, excellent. So Prospexia positions itself as an AI-powered OS for venture investors.
That's
In
correct.
simple terms, for our listeners, what core problem does this platform solve for a busy VC fund? And who's your primary user? The VC fund or the founder feeding data into the system?
So it's actually a mix of both, right? It's a dual-sided system. So primarily it replaces the analyst. It doesn't replace it fully, but it basically gives a tool to an analyst to be more efficient, or like to a solo GP that doesn't have their own analysts. They can use this tool to have it as like a side analyst. The tool is not supposed to replace anyone. It's supposed to help everyone do their jobs more efficiently. And when it
Right.
comes to who uses it more, the VC is going to spend more time looking through deals on the platform, but a founder is going to be, inputting data into the platform more often than the VC will.
Okay. Interesting. That's pretty cool. So we know the VC world is moving from fragmented CRMs and spreadsheets toward integrated deal flow platforms. And what major shifts or trends do you think are shaping the future of venture capital due diligence? And what role does AI play in moving beyond vibe coding?
Vibe coding is a large part of why investors are actually overflooded with deals. Everyone vibe codes and like, oh, this is a good vibe code. I'm making $1,000 a month. Okay, I now need $1 million to go raise money to make this into $100,000 company a month, right? Everyone thinks they need the money, but most of the things they're building with vibe coding is literally a chat GPT wrapper, which, in my idea, that's going to die within the next 6 to 8 months, simply because of everyone's going to be able to just vibe code. And what's going to stand out is, can you market the tool? Can you actually replicate the tool? Can you build your system beyond just the vibe code, right? So I think when it comes to the VC world moving towards the integrated platforms and deal flow, like Harmonic AI, they're one of my, either they would be a data source or like a competitor. I like what they're doing, where you can just search up your deals of what you want and things like that. What's going to happen is the AI is going to be more secluded towards niches. The ones that are secluded towards niches can grow very well, but if it's just AI, it won't be able to grow.
You mentioned that building trust and credibility as a new platform in a competitive VC kind of tech ecosystem is a significant challenge. And how are you and Prospecia currently navigating the need for high trust, security, and data privacy controls, especially with sensitive financial data?
Right. So when it comes to the compliance side of things, we're gonna have SOC 2 before we launch, or we're gonna try to, or even like be in the stage where we launch, and then we pretty much just activate the SOC 2 protocol so we can start getting it moving. So within that 6 month period of launching, we're going to have the ability to get access to SOC 2, Type 2. But then once we get that, we're also gonna have our normal ISO protocols. We're also gonna have our normal AES protocols. Along with that, have you heard of pen testing? Pen testing is when you hire ethical hackers to hack your product for you. So whenever
Okay.
you hire people, it's going to cost around $20,000 per test, and most people run them once a year. But, for me, that's not sufficient enough. So we're going to be running them once every 36 days. Once we get up to capital efficiency to the point where we can run it every 36 days. So it takes about 30 days to run a pen test. And then you have 6 days to fix the test. And then you give it to a secondary team to do another pen test. So that's the eventual plan, but we're going to start with once a year and then go down to, per quarter and then go down to per month. But we basically hire ethical hackers
Yeah.
on a bounty basis to hack our site for us.
Yeah. Okay.
And when they do that, they find all the efficiencies before the actual hackers do.
Okay. That's pretty neat. I know a lot of those guys. I spent about 8 years in the AppSec space. So there's a lot of skepticism about black box scoring and data-driven diligence. How does Prospexia ensure its AI models are transparently and effectively validating startups and optimizing deal sourcing without relying on extensive manual intervention?
Right. So when it comes to the scoring side of things, right, currently we use OpenAI, right? Because we're literally 2 months into this. We don't have the resources to effectively create our own AI. So right now we're using OpenAI. And now because of Gemini 3 coming out and how amazing it is, we are going to switch from OpenAI to Gemini 3 because it's more efficient. And I believe it's a little bit more costly, but it's also better. From that point, we're going to go on Llama or using BERT to create our own open source AI platform. And then from that, we would go into SLMs and then into MLMs and then LLMs. So that's a whole large process of what we're planning on doing. That's just the timeline that takes about 5 years to get there, plus the costs. The AI scoring, we don't just do it based off their data. We also do it off third party data. So we get, Crunchbase data, we get AngelList, we have about 80 different data sources planned out. In the beginning, we're going to have about 5 because it's very expensive to get the enterprise plans. Within the first 6 months, we're going to have about 5 different data sources. And we're going to have third-party data, second-party data, and first-party data all come together to come and create a dynamic source of scoring. It's never going to be the same score. It's always going to be dynamic depending on market changes. If I have 5,000 SaaS startups in the real estate space on my platform, the score for the real estate startup space is going to be different because I now can compare it against 5,000 real estate startups.
Right.
So the score is going to be different depending on the industry and how many startups I have on the platform versus how many startups are out in the world. And as long as we can find that information in real time, we can change the scoring depending on that, depending on what everyone is doing. So this platform becomes better and better, especially on scoring wise, as we get more users on the platform.
Yep, that's great. So you shared a fascinating process when we spoke earlier involving 200 questions and a long form life story to filter out the vibe coders. Can you walk the listeners through how Prospexia's AI uses that deep behavioral and qualitative data to create a predictive score that a VC can actually trust?
Right. I can't actually go into exactly what data we go after specifically, as it can be used to manipulate the system because we haven't built that system out yet
Okay.
where we can stop it. But when it comes to the basis of what we use, we go through how you're speaking, your tone, your behavior, because we do it on a Zoom call like we're doing right now, where the AI can see the eyes and how you're interacting. And most people, when they're speaking, they move their hands around like I'm doing right now, or they, are they reading off a chart? Like right now, I just have an otter going, right? Just so I can see what's going on because I like to be visual about it, right? But some people use Cluely to cheat, right? Are they cheating on it? We also look at their behavior. We look at eventually we'll get to the point where we can assume their psychology. We won't ever be able to we'll be like, all right, 100% sure this guy's psychotic. But we can assume certain variables in the system. We have a 24 trait chart in the psychology scale. And as our data structure grows, we'll be able to increase the reliability of that side as well. But it's a mix of about, I think, 57 things we're up to right now about the voice call that allows us to determine things. And then when it comes to the scoring side of that call, that's actually determined on the VC. If they're a pre-seed company or they're a seed venture firm, they mainly want to know the founder. So they can have the scoring scale be like, okay, I want 7.70% be the voice and 30% be the data. But if they're like a
Hmm.
Series B company or a Series B investor, they can be like, okay, I want, 60% data and 40% voice because the company's already proven to work.
Sure.
So it's dependent on the company.
That's interesting. All the psychology behind that.
And, a lot of VCs don't even look into the psychology of the founder. I did an interview with one investor. I forgot his name, but he's one of the venture partners at EVO Ventures. Before they invest into a startup, they actually sit them down with the psychologist for about
Wow.
a week. And they do that, the same kind of testing that we're doing via AI. They do that by hand with actual psychologists. So there are investors doing it with actual psychologists, but we're basically making that psychologist part like alive for everyone.
Yeah, that's neat. Wow, going through a week of psychology evaluations.
Because that's what determines a big part of the early stage founders. Like, how
Yeah.
in this are you? Because I was just looking on LinkedIn, and I was just watching one of the videos, and she was like, "Yeah, so we just raised a pre-seed round, and my founder just asked me to buy them out for $700,000, but they only raised $1 million, and the co-founder wants to leave." Things like that is a big detriment in a very startup, because without that co-founder, you lose 50% of the equity, and now like the startup's gone kaboom. So psychology is a big part of it.
Yeah, it sounds like it really is. I didn't realize that it was that big. So the competitive landscape is crowded. There's tools like Affinity, Adio, Raised AI. What makes Prospexia fundamentally different from these competitors? And why is your architectural approach better suited to scale and add features in the long run?
Right. So when it comes to affinity, and when it comes to, I've never actually heard of audio. That's a new one. I'm gonna write that down. Thank you for that. And Raise AI, I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. But we have other competitors like Harmonic. We also have, Cap VC. We have Archangel. We have Cyantic. I believe that's how you say it. But there's a couple people in the space, but a lot of the companies are all legacy companies. And then the new startups, they're all building features. They're not building like infrastructure. So what we're doing different is we're building out the infrastructure to keep this long term. So a lot of the companies that I see now that are building something like me, they're all building features and they're trying to sell within the next 3 to 5 years to either a VC or to a private equity firm. They're just trying to sell it and get out the money. I'm not trying to sell, not at least for the next 20 years. That's just, especially in the data infrastructure game, 20 years is a very low amount of years.
Yeah.
And
So
that's what we are. We're
expand
a data infrastructure company.
Okay. Expand on that a little for the listeners who may not kind of easily see the difference between building features and infrastructure.
Right. So when you build features, like a lot of them build it via vibe coding, right? If all it takes is a better coder to come out and literally copy your tool, that's all it takes for you to get run over. It takes better tool or better marketing. But once you build out an infrastructure, like you
Yeah.
build out a structure to create automatic growth, and you have owned the infrastructure, like you buy your own GPUs, you buy your own data centers, and or you rent it from a data center, you're just still partially owning it. Once you own that side of things, it's very difficult to remove yourself from it because you own the infrastructure that everyone else doesn't have, because everyone else is hosting on AWS or everyone else is hosting on Cloudflare. Yeah. AWS went down like a couple weeks ago and everything shut down. But if you went and looked at the people that own their own systems and infrastructure, nothing else was down for them. It was still working fine if they owned it. But if whenever you're renting from someone or you're paying for someone, it becomes inefficient on that side of things. I believe I'm not explaining it correctly, but my brain isn't working to the point where I can explain it, I think, the way you want it to be explained.
That's good. That helped the audience. It gave them a little bit more context. So Prospexia is currently, if I recall, in its pre-public launch phase. What's next for the company? Is the primary focus on deepening regulatory compliance features, expanding the structured vehicle administration functionality, or optimizing the client experience?
So currently, we're still in the process of building out the architecture to, you know, handle the amount of clients that we currently have. So, like right now, we have waitlisted about 25 investors. Well, so we have 19 VC firms and 9 accelerators waitlisted on our platform, along
Hmm.
with 5 angels, and we also have one committed champion fund with 100 million AUM. that's willing to test out the platform as well. And now I'm working on getting a couple design partners into the system. But because of the amount of VC firms that are already listed and how many people we have looking for it, the
Hmm.
infrastructure we had previously was not going to be able to handle the amount of VCs we had. So what we built it for was about 5 VCs because we weren't thinking people are going to sign up within 2 weeks. So we built the infrastructure to handle 5, but now I actually have to rebuild the infrastructure to handle 100 VCs. So we've had to redo the process. And now the next step after that would literally be regulatory compliance. It would be working on getting all the
Okay.
compliances together.
So really the growth path when we look out over these next 12 months, it's really, like you said, converting your existing wait list, working on that
That's correct.
rather than building out and then moving to compliance, like you said. So rather than new lead gen channels, do you feel you need that or not at all?
So when it comes to lead gen channels, I used to do marketing before this. I've got all the industry connections to get the marketing side already figured out. I've already, started working on a marketing proposal for, a clipping agency. They have about 2,000 clippers. The way clipping industry works is, you pay them $2,000 as a base and they basically give you a CPM per 1,000 views. So if that video gets 10,000 views, that clipper gets paid $10 for those views, assuming the CPM rate is about $1, which is what our platform is going to be estimatedly, because we're
Hmm.
having the creators themselves make the content. So I'm not making the content; they're going to make the content. They're going to post. They're going to take care of everything, and because of that, we have to pay them $1 per 1,000 views. But like, say they get 10 million views, that's my entire $2,000 gone right there in one video. So the way that system works is they put a limit per video. If this one video is $500, that's it. You're not allowed to go anything over that. So if that video gets 10 million views, you still pay $500. But if it gets like a million views, you pay $200, right? And the math isn't accurate, but you get the picture on that set of things. But basically, that's just how the structure works. And I have the structure laid out for them to do affiliate. So I pay them a basic, $250 to start with. And hey, make your things. And here's an affiliate where we pay them 10% recurring lifetime. So like say they bring in 1,000 people, 20% convert, that's 200 people. And we'll just assume they're founders paying the $20 a month. That's about $4,000 a month. So the Clipper, they would get paid $400 a month every month forever. Because I do also want to take care of the community that helps me grow. So that's
Yep.
what that system's for. And they get paid out every quarter. So they'd get $1,200 every quarter, but they're welcome to keep marketing.
Yep. That's good. So we already touched on that you're targeting VC funds, accelerators, and investor networks. What's been the toughest part of getting Prospexia into the hands of these ideal customers?
Honestly, that's actually been the easiest part. Actually, getting it in the hands of everyone, that's the easy part because I go to about 60 networking events a month.
It's cold. It's cold.
But because of how many events I go to, I meet either founders that know VCs, or I meet VCs, or I meet scouts at every location. And I pitch it to them. They're like, okay, let me sign up to the wait list and then just let's get back on a call and you can show me a demo. Getting with them is the easiest part because they know what it does. My
And how
hardest
long,
structure is
and how long do you spend showing them a demo? About 60 minutes, 45 minutes?
no, I take less than 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Wow.
Because right now, all I have built is a basic MVP. And
Okay.
even once we have an intricate MVP built up, it's going to take about 8 minutes for a demo.
Okay. Excellent. I
I
like that.
don't want I know the value of a VC's time, so I'm not gonna take up an hour of their time. It's not I'll show them the tool for 8 minutes and I'll give them a code. Hey, just go look at it yourself.
Yeah.
Here's 1 week free. Go look at it. It's up to you. You don't gotta put a credit card in, nothing. Here it is. Have it. If you don't
Okay.
want it, that's fine. Just
Yeah.
give it to a friend.
All right. So hypothetically, if you had a magic wand to fix one thing in the business right now that's either holding you back or slowing you down to get to your launch and scale goals, what would that one thing be?
That one magic wand, it could be a couple things, but one thing that I've been holding back on doing is fundraising. I've had a couple people offer to go into diligence. I did tell you last time as well that a couple, people have offered to go into diligence, but Now as I'm going further and further into this build, I'm realizing, harder and harder that I'm going to need more developers because it's an intricate
Okay.
process. And for that, you need money. So within the next month or so, we're going to wait about another 8 days for YC to come out with their final decisions. And based on that, we're going to go and fundraise after December ends for about 1.5 million, about a $15 million cap valuation at our current traction levels,
Yep.
and the infrastructure that we're building.
That's
But
good.
depending on how the traction goes within the next month, because I've just hired 8 marketing interns and I've got like 60 more applications I've got to go through. So depending on that and how many interns we get and the marketing structure of how I do things, that valuation either goes up because we just get a bigger wait list.
And what are the marketing interns working on?
Right. So the marketing interns are primarily working on LinkedIn marketing specifically because LinkedIn is a very underutilized space when it comes to marketing. And that's actually where a big portion of the investors are. So right now, I'm going to hire a couple, I've got 6 of them right now, or 8. I think I have 6, but 2 aren't fully onboarded yet. And then, I'm going to get up to like maybe 10, maybe 15 on LinkedIn. And I'm going to get, 10 or 15 X interns because there's a lot of investors on X as well. So I'm going to do both spaces so we can start marketing dually. And then, once we do launch, I'm going to go to my clipping friend. I could show you a photo. One of his clippers did 1.2 billion in views in 90 days.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it's a lot. And then his like second
That's
best clipper did almost 900 million in 30 days. So it's almost 300 million a
that
month. So
wow.
I have a partnership deal with him about to be figured out where we have a deal with the, Clippers to do an affiliate based deal where I pay them up front a couple of bit and then, affiliate based because they have
Yep.
the viewage. They know they can output the views and views come with conversions. So we're working on a deal there. And that's literally the day we launch. I'm setting that into motion and we're going to go from there. And then we have interns before that. So that's what we're doing on that sector.
Great. So we know that Prospexia is an AI company, but even you need operational efficiency. So what are the most admin heavy non-core tasks like internal knowledge management, investor reporting for your own fundraising that you spoke about, or onboarding new clients that you believe are ripe for further automation to keep your small team focused on product development?
Right. Let's break that into a couple things. Non-core tasks, there's a lot of non-core tasks, right? But because I'm trying to keep the team small, it's me, my co-founder, and I have one person working part-time. That's founding member, basically. I have to do all the non-core tasks. So I'm not trying to hire someone where I don't have money to pay them. So I got to take care of all the non-core tasks. And we've got a lot of them. Like a lot of it's just marketing. That's a big part of the non-core tasks because that's how you get clients. And going out to networking, I don't have to go networking, but it helps us a lot because I meet so
Mm-hmm.
many new people. Actually, was supposed to get on a call with somebody today, but I didn't. She's, raised about 110 million for one private equity deal. So like people like that you meet at random events where you don't think you're going to meet them. And that's a
Yep.
non-core task. And, there's admin work, they're setting up infrastructure, they're setting up SOPs. All of that stuff for the non-technical side of things is technically non-core tech, but somebody has to do
Yep.
it. And when it
Yep.
comes to, well, hold on, let's see. I'm trying to look at what you said. Let's see. Internal knowledge, a lot of that comes from me primarily on the investor side of things, but I'm also working on getting a couple of advisors that are, vested on shares and things like that. They don't get straight out equity. And this is more like tier 2 VCs that are willing to be an advisor kind of thing. So I have, my knowledge and I actually have a VC fund advisor. Um, and then you said, let's see, investor reporting for our own fund. So that side of things, we're not doing a fund until like 2 years from now. But then when it comes to the fundraising part of what you're saying, when it comes to investor reporting, because the client is my investor, so like because my clients are investors and an investor also can give money, I simply sell the investor on the product first and see if they would use the product. And then I would ask them, hey, would you give me a little bit of money so I can make it better for you? So that's my simple reporting process because they are the client and they are the investor.
Mm. Okay. Sounds good. So you have founders as a secondary user group. What's the strategy for the founder side growth, and how are you automating the identification of, high quality founders to feed into the Prospexia ecosystem?
Right. So that's actually where the clipping side comes into motion because we have the 2,000 clippers doing it for us on the marketing side. They're primarily focused on the founder space, but because it's clipping, both founders and investors can join from that. So it's a dual marketplace on social media as well, where I can get both sides of the community. And when it comes to investor recruiting, I'm primarily going to go reach out to like angel networks, all the angel groups, down here in Dallas. I met a friend. He's a part of the Angel Network. He told me to actually hit him up once the software is done because he'd use the software for the Dallas Angel Network. And, if it works, they'd consider buying, a group angel plan. Because I do have plans for group angels, a syndicate per se, right?
Hmm.
So things like that and reaching out per investor network, every investor I reach out to, once they like the software or if they like it, they'll go tell their friends because it's an advantage that no one else has. And they'll want to boast about it.
Okay.
That's
So
that's our
where
recruiting.
can, yeah, no, that's interesting. You've got the Clippers focused on that. Where can investors and founders learn more about Prospexia Ventures, join the wait list, and follow your journey?
Yeah, so to follow my journey, it's just my name, Pranav Jajapur, Pranavjajapur, and that's Pranav Jajapur, Pranavjajapur. And for when it comes to looking at the product itself, just going to the website, prospectsiaventures.com is going to lead you there. Or if you come to my page on LinkedIn, you'll just click the button at the top. It'll send you directly to the page because I have my website linked up there.
Excellent. Enjoyed the time.
Yep.
It's interesting. I'm excited to watch your journey and follow it.